Hey, welcome back. Today we're talking about rhythm changes. Rhythm changes are incredibly important to your wherever you're at in terms of your journey playing jazz guitar. There's nothing more important than learning rhythm changes. There's so much to work from there. Now, rhythm changes come from a tune that is called "I've Got Rhythm." I think it was back in the 1930s, and those changes were subsequently used by a ton of other tunes, and some of those being I've got listed here: "Anthropology" by Charlie Parker, "Straighten Up and Fly Right" by Nat King Cole, "Cottontail," which we'll look at today, "Oleo" by Sonny Rollins, and the list goes on. And then there are still others with slight variations on the I've Got Rhythm theme, harmonic theme, that result in literally probably hundreds of other tunes. All right, so where we're going to start is just take a look at what the chord progression is. And we're going to do a bit of a harmonic analysis here. So as you can see, we're in the key of B flat, and so we start on the one chord, go to the sixth chord, 1, 6, and then 2, 5. This marking you've got here means repeat the previous two measures and just play the same thing again. So if I were to do that here, let's you've got something like this. Okay, that's a 1, 6, 2, 5 progression. It's good to try to recognize the bass. Listen to the bass. Right? You've heard that. You've heard that a thousand times before, I'm sure. It was even a popular progression in the 1950s with those sort of meandering pop crooner songs, right? Donna, oh, Donna, that kind of thing. All right. So so we've got a 1, 6, 2, 5 on the first two measures, and then a 1, 6, 2, 5 on the next two measures. So it gives us 4 altogether. And then we go to the one chord, and then to the 1, 7 chord, which leads to our 4 chord. In this case, that we're using an E flat 6 chord, but we'll just use an E flat major triad, and then the diminished chord, and I'm using an E diminished 7th. All right, so those changes. I'm using a B flat 6 as well because it's more common. There we go, and then we have this chord progression here. That is a 2, 5. Well, first of all, the D minor chord is the 3 chord in the key of B flat, C, D. So this is a D minor 7 to a G minor 7, sort of a 2, 5 type cycle, and then the 2 chord to the 5 chord, right? So 2, 5 minor in this case, 2, 5 again, and then to our B flat chord, the tonic chord. Now, if you look up this tune, you're not going to find the changes to be always identical, and so and this is a very good example right here. This is not common to play one chord for each beat, especially when you start to skip along at a fair tempo, and so more typically this 2-5-2-5 progression falls over 2 measures like it does in this chart here. So as you can see, we have, again, the same thing, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, 1, 7, 4 major, 4 minor, 4 minor 6 in this case, right? Which is a nice change, which we'll learn in a little bit. And then B flat 6, again, the 1, 6, 2, 5. But as you can see, in this case, those chords are spread over 2 measures, not spread over one measure. So that's, you know, that's more common. Now let me just play through these changes, the first 8 measures. I'll play these changes that we've got here, going to the E flat minor 6, and you'll just hear how those go. I'll stop right there. And this chart, as you can see, the second chord in the first measure is a G7, as opposed to the second chord in this measure, which is the G minor 7. And that's really, really common, because essentially what you've got here, this chord, is the 5 chord of the 2 chord, as it's marked in the analysis on the top here, right? So the G7 chord goes to the 2 chord, the C minor chord. So it's the 5 chord in the key of C minor. It just gives it a little bit more forward motion. I'll play that slowly. I'll show you what I mean. And I'm not playing the flat 9. I will. I'll play that for you too. But first, let's just do the G7, which is just an abbreviation of the flat 9, and that's fine to do anytime. It wouldn't be wrong at all. Again. Instead of the minor, which is a little more passive than that G7. The flat 9, really nice change, but we'll look at that in greater depth later on. You know, that's just a whole can of worms that goes all over the place. So we've still got the same bass line happening, though, right? That 1, 6, 2, 5 bass line going on. And then that repeats itself, and then we have the 1 chord to the 4 to the 1, 7, so to the 1 to the 4 to the minor 6. That's a nice change. To the 4 to the minor 6, and then right, and I just changed that around a bit. Now I've played this bass line a couple of times, but that's in 1 octave. There are variations of that, right? So I could do you know, taking that F up an octave, or I could take the G up an octave. You see, each one of those is exactly the same progression, except you're just moving around with ultimately with slightly different inversions of each of these chords, or slightly different voicings. That's the word I was looking for. Slightly different voicings of each chord. Okay, cool. So that's the first 8 measures, and then if we take a look at the next 8 measures, they're pretty much the same, right? So we have the 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, 1, 7, 4, and then that minor 6, and then the 1, and and then 5, and then the 1, right? Now, so the real change here is when you play it the second time through, notice the bar lines, the double bar lines, right? So the double bar lines say end of section, like yellow light, watch out. There's something different going on here, and then we continue. Excuse me, we continue on, and then when we get to the 16 measure 15 and 16, we've got a quick little turnaround, 1 5 1, going back to the B flat. You see, and the reason we're going back to the B flat is it sort of resolves the section, right? And then in the second section, we have the cycle that starts to take place. Now, this is characteristic of rhythm changes, like a very strong characteristic of rhythm changes. And when I say cycle, let's just take a look at what I mean here. We're starting on a D7, and then from the D7 we're going to a G7. So the D7 is the 5 chord of G7, and then the C7 is the 5 chord of F7. Now, if I take a look at that on the cycle of fifths, so we started with the D7, right, working our way down the cycle of fifths, and then we went to a G7, and then we went to a C7, and then we went to an F7, and then we resolved to a B, will resolve to a B flat, right? So we call it a cycle because it's just a chunk of the cycle of dominance, a chunk of the cycle of fifths. So let's go back to the changes. So that sounds like, I'll do the 2 measures of each. We go back, to the 1 6 2 5. All right. So now when we take a look at our form, we have A, B, cycle, and then A. We return to A. A is always the same. It's the same 8 measures with very little change. The measure 8 here, because it returns to a B flat. It finishes up on an F7 chord, and that F7 chord wants to resolve to its home chord, to its tonal center of B flat. And then at the end of measure 16, we end on a B flat to set up the middle 8 section of the cycle of dominance, which we saw, which starts on the D7, or in other words, is the 3 chord. The 3/7 chord, B flat, C, D, right? 1 2 3 in the key of B flat, and so from that 3 chord we start to cycle down, D7, G7, C7, F7 down the cycle of dominance. All right, and then we finish up with the 8 measures at the bottom, giving us a total of 32 measures. It's a 32 measure song form with an 8 measure cycle in the center. So I would advise in prep for doing this tune and rhythm change tunes, that work in the key of B flat. Just stick in the key of B flat for a while. And start by playing bass lines, simple, straightforward bass lines. Find out where those roots are, and then hear the chords as going above the roots. Now, right? Always be aware of the root. Try to stay away from looking at the chord as a big picture. Like here's a big picture, and I just put all my fingers down on that big picture and off I go. Well, you really always want to constantly break down visual patterns as much as you can, and a good way to start is just to pick up the bass, and then you can do a different bass line, as we say. For instance, right. So I took the 5 chord up an octave. Little, you get the idea. It sounds sort of hokey like that, but the main thing is that you're playing, that you're hip to where those roots are, and you hear these variations of the root movement. You can hear it in your head. You should be able to hear it in your head where those roots are going. Okay, so that was a harmonic analysis of rhythm changes, and a little bit of a history about rhythm changes. I hope that helps, and hope to see you again really soon. If this helped you in any way, click like and subscribe would really help as well. If you've got any questions in relationship to any of these lessons, I guess we could call them, or sessions, please let us know. If there's any suggestions, songs that you'd like to hear or you'd like to learn, or techniques that you would like to work on, but you're just not sure where to start, drop us a line. Okay, thanks for stopping by, and we're going to see you again real soon.